This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
And loaded. I got the question of the day. I've asked every person that's been on today with us.
Okay.
And that is Benny Navarro, Cameron Wolf, Omar Kelly, George Richards. You know, a Hall of Fame list. What happened with you? Anyway,
a list I don't belong on. Yeah.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with you? No, you're the cleanup hitter, bro. You're the most important guy. So here we go, Mr. Anthony Chiang. Who carries the most swag in South Florida? Jazz Chisholm, Matthew Tkachuk, because the Panthers now got themselves finally a guy with swag.
Yeah.
Tyler Van Dyke, Tyreek Hill, or Jimmy Butler. Those are your 5 swags. Again, Inter Miami, I apologize, but you have no players with swag. Nobody that belongs on this list. Not yet, at least. Maybe the Pozuelo guy can get there, but so far, nothing to be noticed on the Inter Miami side. But the other 5, I found the swag guy, the talent guy. I don't think you would argue with that list, right? Right? Those are the 5 guys out of those 5
Tyler,
teams.
I know Tyler Hero. I mean,
No,
off the court with his
but no.
fashion.
This has to go both ways, bro. It has to be on the ice, on the court, on the field, off the ice, off the court. Has to be both. Jimmy's got the swag, and he leads your ass to the Eastern Conference Finals and the finals.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I guess
Tyreek Hill's got the swag, and he wins the Super Bowl. Tyler Van Dyke takes over and says, no, we're going to beat NC State. And he goes and beats NC State. You know what I mean? Matthew Tkachuk, you may not know a lot about it, but that's a badass over there in Calgary.
Yeah.
And Jazz Chisholm, I mean, need I say more with Jazz Chisholm?
I would say Jazz, honestly. I think I would pick Jazz.
Over Butler. Wow.
I define swag as like off the field flair, off the court, off the field flair.
No. That's empty swag.
Okay.
I need on the field matching on the field, on the ice, on the court, matching off, which Jazz does that because he's a performer on the field and off the field. So is Tyreek and so is Jimmy Butler and all that. So then everything combined, who is it?
Then probably Jimmy or Tyreek.
Right.
If you're going to go in that direction. Because they're they're the 2 best players of that group right now, and they've accomplished the most, I would say, especially Tyreek, who's won a Super Bowl.
But I go Jimmy because I'm just thinking in the Miami sense, because what he's done for us. Like Tyreek won the Super Bowl, but I don't give a shit. He didn't win it for us.
It doesn't matter to us.
Right. But he does have the swag. He has that. That's one of those guys you needed in that locker room. You know what I mean? I think it's important. And you've been around Jimmy. So when I'm watching Matthew Tkachuk, because one of the things that I was complaining about with the Panthers is I love Barkov and Huberdeau, but they were both Robins. While they're great players, they're not, like Ray Allen. Ray Allen's a great player, but he's not really going to be talking and not going to be swaggy. Sure. That's not who he is. He's a silent assassin. You know what I mean? He's, Tua calls himself a silent assassin. Barkov is kind of a silent assassin. Zach Thomas was a silent assassin. Those guys were leaders in their own rights and winners and all that.
Yeah.
Right. Chris Bosh, silent assassin. Yeah. Dwayne Wade was a silent assassin. Please. Sure. He wasn't really a talkative bravado guy and all that stuff. Alonzo Mourning was both, actually. He was publicly an assassin, and then on the court he was an assassin. So that's why I like these kind of guys. And when I look at Tkachuk walking into that locker room, you've covered your guy and Jimmy Butler since he's been here, and you saw what a guy like that, what a difference it makes in the locker room, on the court, in the practice court, all over the place.
Yeah, he's an alpha among alphas, right? Like it's like a different level of alpha. I mean, everyone in professional sports is pretty much an alpha. You have to be almost in to get to that level. But Jimmy's even an alpha among those different alphas. So I think it's just a different level. Jimmy makes a big difference. If you're going to define swagger as just kind of being the guy, I say Jimmy has to be at the top of the list. Definitely, especially for what he's accomplished down here.
Yeah,
if you're going off court swagger, I still argue that Tyler Hero should be on that list.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, Jazz Chisholm can be right there with him doing all that kind of
Jazz
stuff.
And Tyler.
The problem is it's baseball. Very few care about baseball compared to basketball and football. That's why Jazz may not get as much. But damn, dude, that guy's got swag and a half, man. I love that kid.
Definitely.
The baseball needs so many more Jazz Chisholms in their league. Not just the Marlins. The entire league needs a lot more Jazz Chisholms. All right, my brother. We see that now Boston is in the mix. I live in reality, bro. You know, I don't like to live in the fantasy and start to create all this kind of bullshit. There is no deal on the table that Miami can make that can beat Boston. But if they're willing to part with one of their guys in Tatum or Brown, Miami's going to have to give up Bam, and they don't want to give up Bam, right?
Right.
But even giving up Bam, I can still see the Celtics putting together a better package. And in getting Brown or Tatum, they still get a player that's more suited for today's game than Bam is, because Bam isn't offensively at the point that you need him compared to those two guys. So here's where I'm thinking of now. If this is starting to pick up and I'm the Miami Heat, I think I need to start going to the Utah angle or other angles now, because I don't see how Miami now gets an upper hand if Boston is in the mix.
I disagree with you on one thing. I think, well, according to report, it doesn't appear, and I would be shocked if Jason Tatum was a part of any trade package that Boston offered Brooklyn. It's Jaylen Brown. I think if Bam was on the table, and he's not, we know that, right? The Heat aren't willing to part ways with Bam up to this point. I think Bam would trump Jaylen Brown. I think the Heat could put together a better package.
And Smart?
Well, Smart's included. Well, if the Heat offer, again, I don't know if I would do this, but the Heat offered Bam and Tyler, I think you could argue it trumps that package, especially with picks.
I'm taking Brown and Smart. It's way smart. It's way smarter to take Brown and Smart.
No pun
in
included.
Today's NBA.
Yeah.
Because Smart can shoot, maybe not at the same level as Tyler, but he can defend, something Tyler cannot do. He can lead, which really Tyler hasn't proven to be a leader yet. And then you've got Jaylen Brown. And let me tell you something about Jaylen Brown. There's a part of me that says Jaylen Brown has a chance to be better than Tatum, because I almost feel like he reluctantly plays the number 2 spot.
Number 2 role.
Yeah, I almost feel like there's a part of him that's dying to take over and explode and prove that he's a number 1 guy. There's like this anger in him that I see, you know, that it's corralled because he's really smart and he understands what he has to do because he's a professional. But you can see that there, at least that's what I feel, there's a volcano brewing in Jaylen Brown that maybe we haven't seen yet. And I think he reluctantly plays that B role there in Boston. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, I at least think it's comparable. I would say the Heat have an edge, but I don't think it's crazy. I think Boston has. I think it's very comparable. If the Heat were willing to offer somebody like Bam, which again I don't think they're going to move on that, but we'll see. I just think it's interesting that report came out yesterday, because from everything you read. There was something that came out this morning that offer was made in early July during Summer League.
Right.
And talks have been dead for weeks because as we spoke about last week, we go, guys, people are on vacation, they're taking time off. There's the time of the year, everything's dead. Everyone I've spoken to doesn't expect this to pick up until September, or even later. I mean, until basically the season nears. And yeah, if Jaylen Brown truly is still on the table and the Heat aren't willing to offer Bam Adebayo, then they really don't have a shot, right? And
well, that's why I'm saying,
but even Utah though, like if New York is willing to offer 4 or 5 picks,
right,
then the Heat don't have a chance there either.
Right.
So they're in a tough spot. The Heat are in position to remain patient, I guess, because if it doesn't come to fruition, this is their roster. They're going to run it back. They have basically almost the exact same team minus PJ Tucker, which is obviously a big loss, but everyone else is pretty much the same. And they'll just have to wait for the next star to become available, because I just don't see them.
Can a trade be made that you trade Bam to them and they trade you Ben Simmons, or does Ben Simmons have to go to a third team? It can't be a swap. Or
no,
can
you could take back Ben Simmons.
Well, well, then what have I told you for a couple of weeks now? That's
Yeah.
the only way the trade happens. That's
Right.
the only way the trade happens. Yeah, we're going to take Durant. We're going to give you the player, but you got to take Ben Simmons also, and then that becomes the tipping point because the Celtics aren't going to take Ben Simmons. Most teams aren't going to take Ben Simmons, who's trying to acquire Durant. Miami would be the one team that would have to take the headache along with the star, and really they're one of the only teams that could maybe make Ben Simmons, whatever, fix him mentally or whatever, and make him a player again. You know what I mean? It's not make him a player because the guy can be a player if he wants. It's more like getting him over that threshold of scoring, I guess. Really, that's kind of what it is. Because really, if you just make him play his game, he could be really dominant.
That's what I was going to say. But and the Heat wouldn't need him to be a 25-point a game scorer, right? It's just about being a great defender, which he can be. We know that. Running the offense, especially if you have to deal with Kyle Lowry, which you could do. Be a facilitator and just, I guess, take advantage of mismatches with his size.
Right.
That's what it would be about. It's kind of like, I mean, they're different players, but what Golden State got out of Andrew Wiggins, like we've spoken about the last few months, Big O. Look, you go to a really good organization with a good developmental system, they can get something out of you if you're that talented. And Ben Simmons is very talented.
He got the career season out of his life, and yet he still regrets taking the vaccine. That if he doesn't take the vaccine, he doesn't get the career out of his life and the contract that's coming. You idiot! I heard that comment. It's like, yo, moron. Like the vaccine's harmless, bro. It helped you and it helped your career. What are you talking about? Right. You regret taking the vaccine. God, please, man. Mitchell, what the hell is wrong with you? All right, so if you're not going to go after Donovan Mitchell, or if you can't get Donovan Mitchell, who do you think is the first of option C? Because we've talked about all the names. I still haven't heard that they're trying to trade John Collins.
Right.
Like we all talk about it, but I haven't heard Atlanta's trying to move John Collins. Okay, we know Miles Turner is available, and we know that Jay Crowder could be had, right? I mean, those
Harrison Barnes.
Harrison Barnes. So what's your gut tell you? Who's option C if they fail on Durant, they fail on Mitchell, and now they've got to go? Who's option C?
I don't think they do anything. I really think because any of those guys at this point, you're probably gonna need to deal away a first round pick. And as we've seen, they can't if they really want to make a move for a star and be in the game in the next few months and next year, next offseason, they need as many first round picks as they could cobble together. And I don't know if they can afford to trade a first round pick for Harrison Barnes is gonna make you a better team. But marginally, it's not a game changer. You're not all of a sudden becoming the favorite for a championship. I think they hold on to it and they move forward with what they have, and then mid-season they kind of gauge the market. Maybe they can get somebody without dealing away a first-round pick, or maybe somebody becomes available in the buyout market that they could add. I think that if they don't, if they're not able to land Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell, I think this is the team. Plus Udonis, I think the expectation is he'll come back. He hasn't made that announcement yet, but he'll be the 14th guy if he does continue his playing career, and they'll need to move forward with this roster.
And by the way, somebody on the chat board saying, I think Boston may be trying to halt the Heat trade. I don't think so.
I don't think, no.
I think Florida Panthers. I think they like Tatum and Brown, but I still think they're not convinced that either one's a Batman. And maybe they're convinced that both are Robin, and they said, Durant would be the Batman, and we would make Tatum the Robin to him, and now we're ready to roll. It's the same thing the Panthers thought. Barkov's a hell of a player, and so is Huberdeau, but they're kind of Robins. They're not really Batmans. We need to go trade for a Batman. We might have to trade one of our Robins. I kind of get the feeling that that's what the Celtics are thinking. They love their two players, but they need just a little bit more, and Kevin Durant is just a little bit more. So I kind of that. And by the way, one more caveat to all of this. Durant should want to go to Boston the way Tatum played him defense.
And not having to be defended by Jason Tatum anymore, right? Yeah. And the other thing is that similar to the Panthers situation is just like Huberdeau was going to be a free agent in a few years, Jaylen Brown is going to be a free agent in 2 years.
Right.
So again, that's something Boston obviously has to take into account when doing this, and also Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn doesn't feel like they'd be able to keep him in 2 years, then, and you're not getting significant draft compensation, because the report was that Boston was offering 1 pick. You can't trade Kevin Durant for a rental, right? If Jaylen Brown is pretty much the big piece you're getting. So I think obviously Jaylen Brown is the best young player that we've heard of that's been offered for Kevin Durant, but I don't think it's this incredible offer that Brooklyn could not pass up. And everyone, people are like, why would they pass that up? That's, it's a great offer. There weren't that many picks attached to it. Marcus Smart apparently wasn't in the offer. It was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a pick. Now, if Boston moved, in a couple months says we'll add more picks, we'll give you Marcus Smart, then it's different. But until then, Brooklyn's going to be patient. And again, one thing we haven't heard from is Kevin Durant and this whole thing.
Nothing.
I mean, I would think he'd want to play with Boston because they're a really good team. Jason Tatum was a really good co-star to play alongside, especially at Kevin Durant's age, as a young star. But we don't know. Maybe Kevin Durant doesn't want to play in Boston, and that messes up everything. So there's still a lot of variables here that we don't know.
It wouldn't be the first black player to say, "Yeah, I don't want to play in Boston." So let's be honest. Jose, Miami's not trading for Jaylen Brown. Boston's not going to give Miami Jaylen Brown, dude.
No.
So stay off the drugs, Jose, is what I would say to you. Maybe you might be drinking a little too early today in the afternoon, so you may want to hold off a little bit there, Jose, on the liquor. Say no. All right, so what do you got? No, seriously, I mean, you think the Boston's going to trade? Okay, he's like, well, he won't be happy now that he's been mentioned in rumors. Brother, if you play in the NBA long enough, you're going to be mentioned in all kinds of rumors. Almost every player will be mentioned in rumors pretty much. So that's just the way it goes.
And if I'm going to be mentioned in any rumor and Kevin Durant's on the other side, that's probably the best I can do.
Right, exactly.
I'll be honored. Yeah.
I mean, Caron Butler is traded for Shaq. What's he going to do? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how it is. But there will be no Jaylen Brown coming to Miami. That's just silly. What are you working on the Herald so folks can check you out, Mr. Chiang?
Yes, as you know, Big O, things are pretty slow, but I have something up today on Nikola Jovic. He is the one new face on this roster as of right now, but he might not even play much. So just kind of going through the Heat's expectations for him.
I said G League, and Ira feels like they'll molest him down there. Like, oh no, they'll get him and they'll tear him apart, and he'll come back. He'll be missing an arm and 4 toes or something, and he'll never be able to play again. He'll be shell shocked. This and that. Do you feel the same way? Because I didn't realize that. I'm like, no, I'd send his ass. I mean, he was playing with men in Europe, so what the hell? Right. Send him down to the G League and toughen his ass up. That's not the case. Do you feel like Ira that they're going to keep him up here and just practice him with the rest of the guys, and that's how they'll develop him?
I'd be surprised if he spends extended time in the G League, but I do think he'll spend some time in the G League. I think it only makes sense, especially if he's not playing in the NBA. Like, he needs, at 19 years old, raw talent, late bloomer, like, he needs the minutes. He needs the experience. So I would imagine he'd get some playing time in the G League. I mean, KZ Okpala got playing time in the G League. Josh Richardson got playing time in the G League. Like, did he do that?
Okay, so now you got me on that one, because Josh was a second rounder, right?
Josh was a second rounder. So was KZ.
Okay. So, but normally first rounders, they do. No. I don't think they've sent first rounders, because I'm thinking about this while we're having this conversation. I just thought about them going, outside of Jovic, I don't know if I've seen another first rounder that will be sent to the G League from them. So now let's be honest, they don't keep a lot of their first rounders.
Right. And the first rounders they've gotten have actually, to the Heat's credit, been contributors. Bam, Tyler, like, they couldn't afford to. I remember Bam's rookie season before the year, they said, we might send Bam to the G League. It makes sense, give him playing time, but it ended up that they couldn't afford to send him there because he was actually in the rotation.
Right. And those are kind of high picks in the first round for them.
Lottery picks.
13 is like, that's a high pick for the Miami Heat. Because normally that means they had a mediocre year, which is just not normal for them to have those kind of years. So that's the interesting part out of all of that. All right, so check them out at the Miami Herald. Make sure you subscribe also and support all of our local journalists there at the Miami Herald, and catch him twice a week doing his thing here with the Liquor Split Miami Heat and NBA Report. And don't forget, download Miami's own app and get your favorite liquor, beer, chips, snacks, smokes, get it delivered to you right there to your home. $2.99 flat fee. And the first time you do it, we're going to give you 15% off. Use our code BIG-O15. Download the app, iOS or Android, anywhere in Miami. They take care of you. Anthony, as always, thank you, my brother. We will catch up later on in the week.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. There you go. The Liquor Split Miami Heat report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.